All of those protests against the Vietnam War were, history has proven, communist papers that were released after the fall of the Soviet Union, was sponsored by the Communist Party USA and their Soviet operatives using pot-headed hippie bums in America to protest against our servicemen in Vietnam. But these protests are spontaneous. This is the real America. This is the real America that the Democrats thought was dead and buried. This is the America that the Democrats thought that was finally vanquished. These voices of the old men, the old women, as squeaky and as weak as they may sound, are actually the sounds of America, what is left of it. And that's why we're talking about what's going on in this country. Now you say, well, I haven't studied the bill. I don't know what I'm talking about. Well, let's show you what I do know. We do know that there are problems with the healthcare system in America. Let's start with the verminous lawyers who live off lawsuits by suing doctors out of business. In fact, we had a candidate for the presidency who probably forgot his name, the pretty boy, John Edwards, who made his fortune by destroying hospitals and doctors across the South like the plague itself. When John Edwards went into a courtroom, a hospital closed or a doctor's office closed. John Edwards, the pretty boy, as you well know, wanted to be president, and he thought that just a smile and a mole on his cheek that he could easily hide from the cameras by turning the other cheek would get him to the ultimate victory, to the White House. But it was John Edwards who said that congenital diseases were caused by doctors' mistakes, and juries filled with folks from the Ozarks without teeth and without much brain matter between the ears said, he's right. That handsome young man from wherever, well, he's right. They didn't know a congenital disease from a doctor's mistake. And so they found in the millions against doctors and hospitals. And as I say, like the Black Plague that swept Europe in the Middle Ages, John Edwards was like the Black Plague that swept the hospitals and the doctors of the Southeast. Now, we know that there are criminal lawyers out there who specialize in making up stories. I know one of them myself. He comes from a criminal father. He's a big Obama supporter, lives here in Marin County. And all his life, he's held himself up as the zenith of what is fair. He's a fair lawyer, this one. Lived his entire life by suing people who didn't do anything, going after companies that created products that America needed, and lived off them his entire life like a leech that he was. His father was a criminal, didn't have the brains that he had to get a law degree. He got a low-life law degree, and he's lived his entire life on class action lawsuits, medical malpractice claims, things of that nature. There's not one sentence in the Obama health care reform bill that would rein in a vulture like this, that would stop the vulture from suing doctors and hospitals for mistakes they didn't even make. There's not one sentence in the Obama health care reform bill that talks about stopping medical malpractice claims. Now, here in California, it got so bad because of vermin like him that even California put in caps on medical liability lawsuits. I don't know if you know about this. This is one of the benefits that we have out here. There are, we're still searching for it. Guys, if you could help me get this right now, we're still looking for it. There is a limit to liability in the state of California, in California. We have it right now. My good assistant has found, here it is. Medical liability lawsuit cap in California is $250,000. And right now, the scum of the earth, the solenterates who live off doctors and hospitals and patients, who have broken the medical system, the vermin with law degrees, and not all lawyers, by the way, are named right now, but the doctors who specialize in medical malpractice claims are lower than the fender bender cases. They're lower than the fender bender ambulance chasers. Right now, they're challenging this law. They want it lifted. They want the cap of $250,000 lifted. And with a little help from Dianne Feinstein and what's her name, Nancy Mussolini Pelosi, they're just liable to get their way. But stick to the main point of what I just said to you. In all of this talk about reforming medical care and giving it to everyone and making it more affordable, how come dear old Dr. Obama has not talked about eliminating or limiting medical liability lawsuits? The answer is because A, he's a lawyer, and B, one of his biggest constituencies was the American Trial Lawyers Association. Now, I have before you a case in my hand that was sent to me from a lady listener to the Savage Nation. I'll read it to you. Her husband's 75 and a half years old, and she says he's still practicing medicine. And she said, you must read this magazine. It is totally unbelievable. Keep up the good work. Sincerely, Mrs. J.M. You ready for this? You're not going to believe this. Doctor liable for not providing sign language interpreter. This is from the Pierce County Medical Society, February 2009. A punitive damages verdict is enough to catch anyone's attention. But a verdict for punitive damages in a disability discrimination case can be a double whammy for physicians. This is exactly what befell New Jersey rheumatologist Robert A. Fogari, M.D., when a Hudson County jury in October of 2008 unanimously handed it down a $400,000 award against the doctor for allegedly refusing to pay for a sign language interpreter for a patient who was deaf. Half of the award was for punitive damages. Now, when you read the case, your hair is going to stand up. You can see Dr. Fogari treated this ingrate for a year and a half. And over the course of about 20 office visits, this ingrateful deaf person claimed that she repeatedly asked the doctor to provide a sign language interpreter, but was rebuffed. Now, the Jersey doctor, the rheumatologist, argued that as a solo physician, he could not afford the cost, which would have been $150 to $200 for a sign language interpreter per visit. And he said the expense was overly burdensome, given that Medicare only reimbursed him $49 per visit, according to Dr. Fogari's attorney. But he wanted to help the deaf patient, so instead of hiring an interpreter, Dr. Fogari exchanged written notes with the ingrateful set-up patient with the help of family members. After her diagnosis, the ungrateful deaf person, her treatment largely involved medical monthly checkups to monitor her medication with no major complications, according to the doctor's attorney. The ungrateful set-up patient, the deaf person, made no allegations of medical negligence. But because Dr. Fogari denied her an interpreter, she found a lawyer who claimed she had never any real understanding of her diagnosis, her treatment or prognosis, and that she was deprived of an equal opportunity to fully participate in her needed medical care, according to the complaint that was laid upon Dr. Fogari's desk. Dr. Fogari treated the patient's condition with steroids, but she said the doctor never fully explained the risks and benefits through a sign language interpreter. The ungrateful pain in the neck then transferred to another doctor. She then sued Dr. Fogari, alleging he violated the Federal Americans with Disabilities Act and the Rehabilitation Act, as well as New Jersey's anti-discrimination law. The jury of morons agreed, finding Dr. Fogari discriminated against the dumb patient, the evil patient, the criminal patient, and her lawyer, both of whom should be deported, when he failed to provide a sign language interpreter to make sure he was effectively communicating with his patient. Dr. Fogari is appealing the verdict. Now, I'm going to read you the rest of the article. The reason I'm angry is because he accommodated her every step of the way. The ADA law says that physicians and other private and covered entities have to provide reasonable public accommodation to ensure effective communication. But those accommodations include a range of so-called auxiliary aids that doctors can use, including, listen carefully, he can use note-takers, video or computer-based transcription devices, which can be less expensive than an interpreter service. But do you understand what happened here? She found a lawyer who should be thrown out of the American legal system. She should have every penny taken back that she stole from this doctor, because he communicated just fine, according to what I have read. Nothing went wrong with her. Nothing happened to her. Her treatment was fine. It was up to standards. But her verminous lawyer argued to the jury that the annual cost of a sign language interpreter amounted to less than 0.25% of Dr. Fogari's yearly income. Let me ask you something. How come Dr. Obama, who says that this is going to lower medical costs, has not included anything about medical liability lawsuits against doctors like this? How come he hasn't talked about who it is who provides sign language interpreters for doctors in New Jersey? See, if you look into who actually provides the sign language interpreters in New Jersey, you might see a new episode of The Sopranos. I'll be right back. Imagine discovering an opportunity that can completely rebuild your retirement fund by 40% over the next 2 years. Does it sound too good to be true? It's not if you take action today. Call my good friends, and I mean good friends, at Swiss America. Gold IRAs have averaged 20% per year growth since 2001. It's just common sense to roll over dead paper assets into gold, the best performing asset of the century. Then you can relax no matter what happens on Wall Street. Call now for a complete Gold 101 DVD and my free CD.
Call toll-free 888-867-8965. That's 888-867-8965.
For nearly a decade, I've told you to trust gold coins and Swiss America. Today, it's more urgent than ever. Get my CD, DVD, and new special report.
Call toll-free 888-867-8965. That's 888-867-8965.
Learn before you earn. Don't just imagine rebuilding your wealth. Do it now.
Call 888-867-8965 today.
The Savage Nation.
He has it all covered.
Weekday afternoons 3 to 7. Talk 910. KNEW.